Welcome to Unlimited Parenting. This is a show where we talk about what it's like to be parents of children with disabilities. This series is dun 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 dun.
Everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite. No, that's BYOT.
Oh, okay.
This is
everyone's second favorite.
This is everyone's second favorite. IPUL, that's us.
That's us.
Found it on Facebook. So these are questions that I found this month on Facebook that I thought would be appropriate for us to answer together.
Perfect.
So I am just going to shoot out a couple. I picked some that I thought were really timely since it is the summer and, potentially parents are getting their stuff ready for back to school. I know I'm saying this in June.
Right.
How sacrilegious of me.
That's okay. Gotta prepare.
So the first question I found is, how do I know if my child qualifies for an IEP or a 504, and what is the difference?
That's a really good question. That's one that we get a lot in our office. And to qualify for special education, Idaho, there's 3 prongs that children have to meet to qualify. And so if they don't qualify for that specialized instruction, then that's where we start talking about that 504 plan. And it can still offer some help and support just in terms of its accommodations. It's not going to be modifications to a student's curriculum or the way that they're accessing their material.
So how do we know when the struggles are enough to qualify? I think that is what I hear a lot is, how do I know if I need, so if I'm not 100% sure, should I just test for a 504 or what would you say?
Don't you think a lot of times too, we will hear, they're taking some data. So yeah. I think I hear that a lot too when families call. And I get you got to kind of know where you're at. And if your team is collecting data, we never want to delay an evaluation because we're taking data, because data is an evaluation potentially, So parents, I guess in this instance, I usually recommend to families to place a request in writing for an evaluation for special education. And then that way, if the student, that's going to tell the family if the student meets those 3 prongs. And if they don't meet those 3 prongs, then that's when we know that a 504 plan may be that best route.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is because if you assess for a 504, you can only be found eligible for a 504. However, if you assess for an IEP and then you're not found eligible for an IEP, you could potentially still be found eligible for a 504.
Yeah, and some, Idaho being a local control state, each district kind of has different procedures with how they test. So some districts do want to do a comprehensive evaluation for all students. So yeah, it kind of does make sense to request that special education evaluation and kind of go from there. Even if they don't need all those supports, that's what that evaluation will tell us. And then the 504 plan could be written from there.
And that just reminded me, just a quick plug, if you're an educator on here listening to this, we did hear that the State Department was going to potentially give some mini grants that you could use to purchase materials that you use for assessments, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know if that's, I know that's coming through SESTA. We heard about that at SEEP.
That's the Special Education Advisory Panel.
Yeah. I'll pull that information and we can attach it in the comments.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're thinking to yourself, what kind of assessments does my school use? And then your school comes back and says, we're short on funding or whatever the case may be. This could also be something that you could potentially bring to your school's awareness. Just make them aware that this is another thing that's out there for them to take advantage of.
Yeah, because I think sometimes that mini grant information just goes to the superintendent or the director of special education and it maybe doesn't get disseminated down. And so, yeah, we'll put that in the caption.
But I think basically whenever you're listening to this summer, just know that if you have concerns about your child, it's better to just make sure you put that request in writing. Always put it in writing.
That starts the timeline.
Right.
We can't, as parents, say, I asked for that and no one did anything if it wasn't in writing. That gives us the ability to say, I asked for it at this point, it's traceable. So always put it in writing.
I don't think I have the little soundbite anymore. But remember, we had that soundbite of Angela going, if you didn't put it in writing, it didn't happen.
Yeah. And that's true.
Okay. Another question that I found is, I'm overwhelmed. Where do I even start? And girl, if you find an answer to that, you come on down and tell me.
Gosh, I feel sometimes like imposter syndrome when they call us, because we're
the people we serve. So
you guys, we really are. And we know what it's like to be overwhelmed. And on any given day in this office, one of us is overwhelmed. We try to take turns, but
sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes people jump the darn line. You just gotten your new diagnosis.
Okay.
You could go back in time and tell yourself, like, what would you start with first? Because when I got Jack's autism diagnosis, there are definitely some things that I would have started with first.
Yeah.
That I didn't, because I didn't know about them then.
So what would...
So,
like what, for example?
The first thing that I would have done, honestly, is gone and picked up a book.
Okay.
Because I really see the value in going to a group on Facebook and asking some questions. But I really wish that I would have started with like peer-reviewed literature on how autism is different than ADHD, on kind of what are some things to know and expect, and then gone to a Facebook group.
So I kind of have a different perspective, because I was given a book, and it was the A to Z of Angelman syndrome. And my son has obviously Angelman syndrome. And it looked like it was written, okay, he got his diagnosis in 2010. This book was written in the early 90s. It was black and white, and everything referenced mental retardation, and it was doom and gloom.
Not a good book to start with.
I did not want to start with that. I wish I had not started with that book. I wish I had found the Facebook group first. I wish I had seen other Angelman children thriving, doing things that book showed me that they probably wouldn't do. But I was able to join that community. So for me, that community, it wasn't peer reviewed. It was, I needed to see what my life was going to look like. But it's different. There's not a lot of literature on Angelman syndrome. There's not a lot of studies. So I needed that personal connection. I wish I had done it backwards. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense, because I felt like I was getting the inverse. I felt like I was getting more doom and gloom from a Facebook group than I was in a book.
Okay.
So we're saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find, I guess at the end of the day, what I would really recommend to anyone who's overwhelmed with a new diagnosis is find where it's not the doom and gloom, because that's what we were looking for, both of us.
Exactly.
Just in different spots.
Yep.
I think another thing that I would definitely tell myself is that the systems take so much time.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would have applied for Medicaid sooner. I really would have applied for Medicaid sooner had I have known how much support, like the Katie Beckett pathway to Medicaid, how much support you get from children's developmental disabilities, how much support you get from early intervention.
See, and I think in that respect, Reese was so delayed and so medically complex that those systems fell into place pretty naturally for us. He had seizures, so we were already connected. We very quickly got connected with Katie Beckett, with the infant toddler program. We were really well connected, but I think it's because his challenges they appeared and presented differently. I was overwhelmed when we started the school system. When we started, I had just wrapped my head around medical stuff to then jump into a new system. And we know those systems don't talk to each other. The healthcare and the education, they're not symbiotic.
They don't even look at each other. They're in different corners.
They are.
They try, though. They really do try.
So I guess I wish I had known more of that kind of stuff.
Well, let me put it this way. I am a brand new parent who just got an Angelman diagnosis. My kid is 5. What would you say to me?
I would
That's
say,
weird that I got the diagnosis that late.
yeah, first, nowadays, it kind of is. But I would say welcome.
Oh, see, that's
I always say
so
that.
sweet.
And I always like to share a picture of my kid. And you know, the picture that I like to share is the picture of him on the mountain, because he climbed the mountain, even though we were told that he wasn't going to walk and he's not going to talk, and he's, take him home and love him. But he runs, he climbs, he walked when he was almost 5. It took him a little bit longer, but I like to welcome people, and I like to tell them it's not going to be rainbows and unicorns, because I'm not going to give that false sense of hope, but it's also not going to be a death sentence. And that's what it felt like when we were given his diagnosis. It was a death sentence, kind of like, oh, grieve. And I guess there is that place for grieving. So I would make sure to tell someone that got a diagnosis at 5, grieve, because you have to grieve what you're not going to have. And then you just figure it out.
That's such a good point, though, because autism, obviously not a death sentence. But I remember when I found that diagnosis, when he got that diagnosis and I heard about it, I just sat in the car and cried.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it almost feels weird looking back on it now, because obviously everything is fine, but hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, because
I remember thinking, oh, is he not going to do all the things that I loved to do? So it was almost like grieving what I thought could happen.
Oh, 100%. Like, that's what I grieved. I grieved like, oh, he's not going to play football. Oh, he's not going to
Because football is such a huge thing in your family.
It
so
is.
that,
and that's stupid. Guess what? He still played football.
It's not stupid, because I was wondering if Jack would ever learn how to read.
Right.
And that's what's important to me. And so I was like, will he ever
football reading? You can see where we're coming from. Anywho,
but no, that's
we kind of had to grieve some of that.
So don't find the doom and gloom.
Yeah, and find your people.
Find your people, and what was the other one? Grieve.
Yeah.
Find your people and grieve.
Yeah. And
it gets better from there.
Yeah, exactly. It absolutely gets better. Like, that was rock bottom.
Yeah.
You can't go much lower than that. And so then you kind of start crawling your way out.
And then don't beat yourself up when you have bad moments.
Yeah, no. Because you're going to. You're going to.
Yeah, you're going to.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really powerful about making sure that you have support in your community too, because those bad days, you need that support to say, hey, not every day is going to be like this. You need to be able to hear that, because you could get really stuck in your own head.
You can. Mm-hmm. And then you can start to take that out on your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that we would know, but it's just something I heard one time.
Me too.
Okay, so our final question is a little more lighthearted.
Okay. These groups.
And honestly, whoever asked this question, bless you, because I love it so much, because this literally sounds like something I have asked at some point in my life. How do I advocate for my child without being labeled that parent? Isn't that the best question?
Oh my gosh, that's the struggle that we all face, right? Because we don't want to be that parent that they see coming,
or that parent who's been asked not to step foot on school property anymore, or
has happened,
been kicked out of a therapy, or let go, discharged from the clinic, kind of a thing.
Discharged from hospital systems. I mean, there's been parents have been completely discharged from systems, and then your children are affected.
But then you feel like, I'm just trying to advocate for what's best for my kids.
It's a fine line, and I guess
the line is almost invisible.
It's almost invisible. I try to really bring in my sons, whoever, whether it is therapists, teachers, doctors. I value them as collaborators on his team. I value their opinion. And at the same time, I try to get them to value mine as well. So
yes.
I think that we have to be collaborative, and I think collaboration goes a long way in these systems when you are at the table and you are not combative, but you are listening and offering solutions and feedback, but you aren't yelling. And I guess it's hard when we get our mama bears sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
To not. But
I like to think of 3 things. Number 1, Mark Purchin wrote a really great book.
Yes.
Again, a book. I'm sorry. But if you ever have time or you want me to just give you a quick synopsis, it's essentially how to have those difficult conversations. And it's from someone who was a mediator as his full-time job. And we were lucky enough to have a symposium, a conference with him there. And he led a really powerful session that a lot of people took a lot from.
Yeah.
And I just wish that we could send every parent to talk to him and go through. I don't remember who was presenting with him. I am so sorry, but the both of them were so fantastic.
Dress, remember?
Oh my God. And every time I see a dress like that
was so
on Shein, I'm like, this is the dress.
Sorry.
No.
I agree though, because it did have really power and it one thing
the gem. Are you going to talk about the gem? Talk about the gem.
I just loved and we actually have stole this from
because it was so powerful.
At the end of the day, he asked us to hold an imaginary gem in our hand and not let our neighbor see it and not let anyone take that and hold that close to us. And that was kind of a representation of our child. And that is who we hold close. And when we go into an IEP meeting, we have this gem, and this gem is who we are there to protect. And so by showing the team this gem, showing them, opening your hands and showing them, this is what I'm trying to protect, it kind of gives that team a visual representation of why you are so passionate as a parent and why you are, maybe you're advocating and you're advocating a little too strong sometimes because you're holding this gem.
Your pride and joy.
Your pride and joy,
You worked so hard on this.
After all these years, you
and most times you made it yourself, and
right, and it's under pressure, and it just everything that a gem kind of encapsulates can very much be our children too, and so I guess how I have used that in an IEP meeting is sometimes my son doesn't go to his IEP meetings. He's a little. It's a little overwhelming for him.
It's not his least restricted environment.
Yeah. But I take a picture of him and I plop it on the table. And I learned that from Mark because he is the reason that we are there. He is the reason that we are at this IEP meeting. And it centers it around him. And so, I don't know. I don't want to be that parent. But I agree that Mark had some powerful, powerful messages about
it was so good.
Centering and bringing it back to why teams are together.
And that's what we mean when we say that we are the parents that we serve, but we also have extensive professional development. This is what we mean, is that we go to OSEP, we go to these meetings where we get this, and then our job is to bring it back to you via trainings or a podcast, or when you give us a call and you say, well, what do I do now?
Right.
This is when we pull from that well of information.
And I would tell you that we kind of flipped that script. And when we present to educators, we last year at the Transition Institute, every educator got a ring pop on their chair to represent the gems that are our children. And we tried to use that as a visual in the opening of our presentation to talk to them about, these are our gemstones. Please understand that when we come and we are so passionate at these meetings, this is the reason why. So hopefully we can show that same kind of message to educators too, that's why parents are so passionate. These are our kids.
Passionate also can sometimes present as feisty.
Mm-hmm.
Passionate can sometimes present as defensive.
And we have to, as parents, really... It's hard.
Take a breath. Bring the candy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
So what are your other two? Sorry.
No.
Tangent.
My other two are, I guess my second one is I would like to do for them what I hope that they do for me, which is pretend that I have just spent 3 hours on hold with Medicaid. That's how I go into any of these meetings. I'm like, I'm going to pretend that this person is absolutely exasperated, that this is the end of their day, this is the last thing that they have to do. And then that always automatically makes me want to give them extra grace.
Yeah.
So I try to do that. It doesn't always work, but that's something that has worked for me in the past. And then the third thing is, Melissa's going to laugh because this is a horse I'm going to ride until forever. Hanlon's razor, baby girl. It's never going to die, which essentially...
Be on your gravestone.
It will.
Really should. Okay.
That's the eulogy I want read. Which essentially means that, you know...
But I'm older, so I'll die first. I can't help you out with that.
Fine, I'll put it on your headstone. Okay. So I can read it to you every day.
There we go.
Essentially, it's saying that, you know, don't attribute to malice that which can be attributed to ignorance, right? So don't assume that when someone says something that they mean it the way that you automatically think, right? So if someone bumps into me in the hall on the way to class, I'm not like, oh my gosh, Jessica hates me.
Right.
And that's hard for me because I am such a black and white thinker that has really put so many shades of gray into my ability to see people. And then I always try to think, you know, like, what is the school, what is this IEP team like benefiting from when they do it this way?
Right. I like that.
And I just have to try to like see it from their perspective. And obviously I'm always going to do what's best for my child, but I never want to go in
guns blazing, ready.
And I have had some rough experiences with educators. It hasn't been easy, but even now, even though I've been with this team for a while, I still always go in like, okay, he's had a bad day. Like he's gonna be a little aggressive, but that's because these other things have happened to him and he's got this million other kids on his caseload and blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I really have still come out with it, getting everything that I thought would benefit my child and what I thought that my child would need without having to be defensive or getting upset. I've just remained very calm and I'm very solution driven.
Yep.
And I think that is another really big piece of advice to give is that, you know, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
But then what's your solution? So for instance, I'm in a very small district. The district doesn't have a ton of money. I'm going to ask for behavioral one-to-one support. I better come with a plan on how I think that school could do it, even though I recognize that that's not my job, but I'm being a part of the team and I'm helping to come with a solution.
And that's being a good team member.
Yeah.
Right. And that you can bounce ideas off of each other. And it's okay to say, oh, can we try this? And for the team to say, no, that's not going to work. But you have an explanation to why.
Yes.
That's what's so critical, I think, is when you are able to have these discussions openly and honestly, that transparency, that's the word I'm looking for, is so huge with teams because that is, to me, that's why I trust my son's team so much. We've been able to have transparent conversations. We've been able to be really honest with each other. And there's been times where they've said, no, that's not going to work. And we've gone back to the drawing board. But that's just it, is always to have those solutions. And we can help maybe sometimes with those solutions. We talk to a lot of different families.
And a lot of different districts. Because Idaho is not just Ada County.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of districts that have to think outside of the box. Yeah. Well, the last thing I would do is I just like to say thank you. Because
that is so
good. Their time. I like to acknowledge, they put time and effort into this, assuming that they did. Now, there may be times where you go and there's nothing.
There are times that
story.
Right. There are times that this is on their lunch break.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Thank you for helping to support my kid.
Yeah.
Because then you have to go back to the classroom hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't operate well.
No.
That's another good reason to bring snacks.
Yes, I do like to take snacks.
Nobody wants. And if there's anything that we've learned recently, if you're able, bring your child.
Yes.
If your child is able to help advocate, it is so hard to say no to a child.
Yep. We have had some powerful stories of advocacy lately that wouldn't have gone the way that they did if the students had not advocated for themselves. It's huge. Yeah. And if your student can't be there, that's why that picture comes in handy. So at the end of the day, that student is at the center of the table.
The student is at the center.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone out there, for listening in. And know that if you are in Idaho or planning on moving to Idaho and have questions on systems or services for children with disabilities, please consider reaching out to us on our website at IPUL Idaho, that's IPUL Idaho.org, or by calling us at 208-342-5884. Be sure to tune in next time. Until then, this has been Unlimited Parenting.
Thanks for listening.